But it's my, that's funny, it's my right, not really the left. Okay, the meeting is now called to order. Welcome everybody to MDX today, Tuesday, December 9th. And I'd like to invite our secretary to lead us into Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you very much. Maria Luisa.
Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Holland, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Rodriguez-Pina, Ms. Fano, Mr. Vasquez, Ms. Weinberg, Secretary Pago, Treasurer Fernandez-Guzman, Vice Chair Ferrer,
Here.
Chair Gutierrez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Council?
Approval of the agenda.
We're going to go ahead and set the agenda. There is an item, if it's acceptable to the board, that we're going to move forward because we have some guests here. It's item H, and we're going to move it forward to the first action item.
As amended, I move the
agenda. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishes to be recorded as a no? Thank you. We move on. Declarations?
Do any members of this board have any conflicts to report on any items?
I have one.
Madam Chair, if I may, after the...
Do I do it on the record, or do I just...
On the record.
It would be with Arasosa Brothers and the principals of that entity. Maria Luisa, will you give me the... Thank you.
Item E.
That was for item E, correct?
I'll defer to you.
Yes, it's for Adam. Madam Chair, if I may, now that we've done the declaration, speak. You heard council speak. Can you guys hear me?
No.
No.
Can you hear me now?
No.
This isn't working. In the back, they'll adjust it in the back. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You know what? Madam Chair, you all met our council, Mr. Carlos Zaldivar. Today is his first board meeting, and I welcome Carlos to the MDX team. And Carlos comes to us with an extent of experience both in the public and the private sector. Most recently, he worked in the private sector, but he did spend a numerous amount of years as counsel to the Federal Bureau of Investigations. So we welcome you, Carlos, to the team, and wish you all the luck in the world. And you know,
Thank you. I've enjoyed the 7 working days I've been here. It's been great.
And I understand you're going to be meeting with each member?
Yeah, that is my plan. I was going to report that in the General Counsel's report. You're taking some of my...
Everybody to realize that they're going to be receiving a call. And with that, I want to take also a moment. We welcome you to MDX, and we're also going to be missing Mr. Weiss, Richard Weiss, who has served us very well throughout the year. And we're going to miss you and your savvy advice. Please stand up so we all remember him. Please do not forget our address. Come back and see us again. I know that your firm still represents us, and they do a great job. Thank you. And with that, we move forward to the Citizens' Comments section, which is now open. It's a section that's open for 30 minutes. And if there are some members that would like to address this board, now is the time to please come forward and address us. You have a few minutes, and we hope you tell us your thoughts. And make sure that you state your name and your address, and it's for the record. 2 minutes each.
Good afternoon. Carlos Garcia, 127th Avenue in Kendall, with rollback tolls. And thank you for the meeting today. Well, here we are, the first board meeting after the toll rate increase. We've been hearing a lot from the community. I'm sure you have too. A lot of people are upset. A lot of people are not taking the road in protest, be it permanent or temporary. But what a lot of people are saying is, you know, unfortunately, this town is very reactive. I wish it were more proactive, especially before March 19th of last year. Our group has started a petition, keeping with our name, Roll Back the Tolls. And I invite you all, because I don't want what happened last time to ever happen again, because we worked very hard on that petition last time, and Mr. Guzman, who's not here today, didn't even know that we had a petition. I worked my butt off on that petition. I felt that that was totally uncalled for. So I want everybody to know there is a petition at rollbacktolls.com. We're asking the public. We have over 1,000 signatures on it in 4 or 5 days, and it's escalating. We're asking this board to consider rolling back the toll rates. After I was on the Jim DeFeeti show with Javier Rodriguez, it was clearly pointed out, and we knew this, that you could have done your work program by not raising the toll rates on March 19th. It would have been slower. It would have not been impossible. But now what we have here is a situation where the public cannot afford it. We're talking students, retired people, people on fixed incomes, people on minimum wage from West Kendall, Doral, or Fontainebleau that need to go to Miami Beach for their jobs, be it cleaning a hotel room or working at a restaurant or whatever it might be. They can't take the road anymore. It's just that simple. They cannot afford it. And unfortunately, you know, a Toyota would have been fine, but you put us into a Rolls-Royce payment plan. And that's the reality, you know, for a lot of people, okay? And it does seem, the optics on this are the fact that this board seems very out of touch with the everyday commuter. And, you know, I can't disagree with that argument. You know, a lot of people have said that. And you're going to hear from some people today, and, you know, thanks for the opportunity for that. But we do have a petition online, and we are going to continue to fight for what we believe in. You know, we're also asking, you know, on that same day, consumer price indexing, which is a big thing, and I want everybody to pay attention to it. Automatic toll rates, you know, starting in 2017. It's an opt-out. We know that it's an opt-out. It's not an opt-in. So it would go forward unless the board decides to stop it, you know, but the reality is that every 5 years it's going to go up. And we are dead set against that. We are going to fight that tooth, nail, skin, everything. We are years ahead of that going into plan, and we are going to fight that one hard, because we really do feel this is enough. Next time you guys need money, you should absolutely have to come to the public to ask for it, not have it in an invisible way and have it go up just because everyone else did it. You know, the Florida Turnpike did it. Doesn't mean that we need MDX to do that same thing. You know, we want our representation. Florida Turnpike, that's another entity. But the thing is, if you are truly Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, we want the representation here in Miami. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos. Yeah, Percival.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. Lawrence Percival, Greater Kendall Community Activists, Incorporated, 11945 Southwest 127th Avenue. My concerns today are not to talk about the tolls. I would make a little anecdotal comment that when it's time to consider the next go-around for consumer price index increases, I think you will have under your belt an opportunity to review how much revenue you've been able to collect in a closed system. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at the revenue stream you're going to generate from that, and it will probably give you the ability not to roll back the tolls, but not to increase the tolls. We're going to have to come to the reality of living with what you've done, but that doesn't mean you have to keep increasing it. And I would hope that at that point we would do the right thing for the greater good of the community and for your agency to continue to be a viable agency, to continue with the vision of other projects that you need to do, mostly focusing on how you use your road systems for public transportation systems, whether it's a rail system or an elevated whatever or a rapid bus, whatever. We need new modules of getting around aside from cars, and your roadways have the great potential of providing that as a future vision. And I hope that when we get to that point, and maybe I'll still be alive then, that I'll live to see some of the new things that technology, transportation technology can bring us, along with what's happening with your operations, Mr. Pago, on the in Region 6 Department of Transportation projects that you have responsibility for. Let me transition to a greater concern that I have, and that has to do with the overpass. I guess you call it the 874 extension. Is that what you're calling it, Javier?
It's the ramp connection,
So
yes.
when it goes over the turnpike and it exits at Southwest 128th Street, when you get to the point that you're at 127th Avenue, there is either an unintended consequence or just a lack of effective coordination with this agency and Public Works. I've met with the folks at MPO. I met yesterday with the people at Public Works, and everybody seems to want to kick the can down the road because they never have the money. So it is what it is. You can't do anything without the money. So they're saying, well, back when this project was planned and approved, they didn't have any money, and they don't have the ability as of yet. It's not in the long-range plan. It's not in the TIP. There's no vision for how we're going to solve the problem of your roadway exiting onto 127th Avenue. You're going to have one turning lane going north that's going to merge into one lane of traffic that goes from 128th Street to 124th Street. And on the north side of 124th Street, it dead ends from 2 lanes to 1. So you have a northbound traffic that's going to create a bottleneck. It's going to be terrible. Then the southbound lane is only 1 lane as well. In order to solve this problem, ultimately, Public Works would have to acquire land from Florida Power and Light. On the south side of 127th Avenue, you have the Nixon Smiley Pineland Preserve, and the curbs and gutters and sidewalks are in place. You're going to have to go on the east side of 127th in order to expand to make 4 lanes. As I understand it from Javier in a previous conversation, you're going to build out that intersection for 1,000 feet north and south. Now, when you look at the distance from 124th Street to 128th Street, it's a little over 2,000 feet. So when you make your improvement for 1,000 feet, that other 1,000 feet is going to be left for Public Works to do it at their leisure whenever they figure out how they're going to do it. I asked them yesterday to start coordinating and planning to get this. He said, well, we're going to have to meet with the commissioner of the district and see what the politics of the issue are. I can't imagine it would be politics. That's Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Moss. Yeah. And certainly on the north side of 120th Street, it's our new commissioner, Diana Cava? Levy? Cava Levy or Leva Cavi? I got it backwards, whichever. At any rate, I think she has a vested interest in weighing in on this issue as well. You're going to have a significant, I'm going to say thousands, of residents in that area that would potentially use your roadway. But I suspect, and I for one will not use it, if I have to sit in a queue of traffic that's going to cause me to wait and wait and wait to make a left-hand turn to get on your road, and in the afternoon when it's time to come back in afternoon traffic, getting off of your roadway, sitting in a queue, waiting to go north to get onto a 1-lane merge road, it's going to be a nightmare. Now, I think it's going to be worse for the people who want to go south and west. People that live in Venetia Lakes, people that live in Tuscany Villas, and all the communities around those areas that undoubtedly, if you make a convenient roadway that gives them access to get onto something and move along, time is money. And if they have to sit in traffic for untold times waiting to get on your road, people aren't going to do it. They're just not going to do it. And this is an unintended consequence. You, I understand, Javier, this board does not have the authority to spend any money for anything that you cannot generate revenues from to justify to your bondholders. So on a public road that belongs to Public Works, to the citizens of Miami-Dade County as opposed to the state, you can't build this project. You cannot make that improvement and justify it to your bondholders, as I understand it.
We're listening. We're listening to what you're saying, Percival.
Okay, so that being said, what I would hope to happen, this is the second unintended consequence of a roadway that you've built. I'll address the next one in a moment. But I hope that we could pay attention to this issue because for the good things that you're doing in building this, you're creating a potential nightmare that makes your roadway unpalatable. Okay. You can't do one good thing and take a step forward and cause 2 steps back on another road. So what I'm pointing out to you is the hope that you would coordinate with the MPO and you would coordinate with Public Works to make sure that this doesn't happen again on the next project you bring forward to build. The first one, which I think is just an absolute nightmare, and it's a traffic hazard, is coming off of 107th at the new Snapper Creek, just west of 107th Avenue, as the lane merges and there's a right turn only. There's a white line, a solid white line, and everybody, including me, everybody, and buses from Miami-Dade Transit, everybody gets stuck in that lane and they need to move over to the next lane. And they don't pay attention to the fact that it says right turn only. They avoid it. They just wait and they stop and they wait till they get through traffic and everybody behind them is backed up waiting for them to move over into the other lane of traffic. Unless you put a solid concrete barrier there, you're not going to solve this problem. And we don't have police enforcement out there writing tickets. People are just abusing it all day long, every day. It's a really lousy plan that you've allowed to happen because your original plan addressed this issue, but you didn't have the money to acquire the right-of-way that you needed to solve the problem. So we have an unintended consequence that's not acceptable. And, you know, I've been up here many, many times to praise your works and saying how efficient and effective you are. But when you deserve to be pointed out, you deserve to be pointed out. And this is an example where there's room for improvement, not to let this kind of thing happen again. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to correct this issue. And as you get to that point, it's not your road anymore. And that's somebody else's responsibility, but you haven't coordinated with them and you haven't seen to it with the leverage that you have and the influence that you have to make sure that other agencies coordinate with you and work with you to give a product that's a good finished product that everybody's going to be happy with. This is not a good product. And the one that you're now putting forward is going to have flaws unless you take the active step of engaging Public Works immediately and starting to address how we get that project built, because it's not even on the radar screen for the next 5 years. So let's assume in a perfect world, let me wrap this up.
Sorry, I don't want to stop you, but
I'll wrap it up,
over
but
your time.
let's assume in a perfect world you're going to have this road finished and open for public consumption in a couple years. Well, let's just say 3 years, just to give you a little bit of fudge room. 3 years from now. And it's not even on the drawing board for Public Works. So you're going to have a roadway open, and you're going to have nightmares for at least 2 to 3 more years, and another year or so after that by the time it gets built. So for the next 5 to 6 years after your roadway is open, you're going to have everybody upset with you as an agency, and with the citizens of Dade County being upset with our local government, who's only reactionary. They're not progressive, and they're not ahead of the curve. Let's stay ahead of the curve on these future things, and then I can get up here and sing your praises and not criticize you.
Good. Thank you very much,
Thank you for
Percival.
listening, all of you.
We have taken down the notes, and we will take everything under advisement. Any other members that would like to address us?
Kendall? Okay, there we go. First of all, congratulations on being appointed to the chair. I recall back when you had the controversial vote about inflation that there were several directors here who were not in support of it. In fact, I even remember a few of them storming out of the room right after the vote. And hats off to you. So I'm here to talk about that today. I'm very, very disappointed in statements made by Mr. Rodriguez on Channel 4 when he was asked about inflation. He said, oh, but we have to vote for that. So I believe it's appropriate for him to correct that by publicly explaining the inflation policy to the community so that they understand what it is. Maybe the community will be okay with something that I personally am not okay with. First of all, he made the statement that the board would have to vote, and my understanding is that in order to have an inflationary adjustment, it happens automatically unless the board votes it down by a 2/3 majority. There's a big difference. There's miles and miles of difference between those two statements. I believe that needs to be corrected publicly. So in other words, you have to vote it down, otherwise it happens automatically. The next thing is that fixed rate debt is inflation proof. And I don't understand why you are inflating 100% of something that might only be 60 to 70% subject to inflation. Thirdly, I even question why we would have an automatic adjustment. Can you imagine if the county commission or the mayor said, you know what, we're going to automatically inflate your property taxes every year. We're going to tie it to the CPI index. They would be ridden out of town on a rail. Because even if you are efficient, and I know that you are, and even if you outsource, and even if you are very dynamic in the way that you do things, and I'm giving you kudos for that, there is no assurance that when you inflate my tolls, 100% of my tolls, that in fact your operating budget is growing at the rate of inflation. If you are as dynamic as you say that you are, if you outsource, and if you shrink and you grow in accordance with the projects and the things that you're doing in the community, there is no assurance that the other, let's say, 30% of your budget is going to go up 2%. It might go up 5% one year. Another year it may go down 7% if you just finished a project. I know you have back office things that you're doing. There's a lot of things in play. So I don't accept that anything should just happen automatically and be tied to inflation. I would expect that your pricing policy would be as dynamic as your organization is, and that it would be brought before the public, and that it would be looked at in depth. And I certainly don't expect for you to be inflating my toll that is largely going to service fixed rate debt. So for me, in the next couple of years, this is going to be my mantra. I believe that you should bring this policy back before this board. I believe you should roll it out in front of the public. You should talk about it publicly. You should allow those directors who are not in support of this to be able to talk about this publicly. And I would like to see a redo on the inflation policy. In fact, I'd like to see it rescinded. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any other members of the public would like to address this board? Seeing no one else, this portion of the citizens' comment.
Yeah,
Yes?
I think we have. Anyone else? Okay. I think we have one more, yeah.
Good evening. This is my first time doing this, and it's also my first time coming to this nice building here. I haven't had the opportunity to really know what is going on.
State your name and your address for the record.
My name is George Mensah, and not until a week ago, now I live in 132 Northwest 136th Street, 136th Avenue, Miami, Florida. Prior to that, about a week ago, I used to live in Pembroke Pines, and I drove on I-95. While deciding to come and live where I live right now, I took into consideration the cost of my commute, working downtown, took into consideration the tolls that I will be taking, and I just realized that I made a huge error because I did not look at the fact that the toll was going to go up from $1 to $2.40. And so when I saw in the paper that it was going to go up, I started reading about it, and so I came late to the game to know that this is actually going to take effect. I made a wrong decision because I didn't really take that into consideration. I know that this issue has been discussed maybe in the 2012, 2013 when the decision was made. But I think that it's as board members, as the commissioners of this agency, I think you need to probably go back and look at the effect this will have on your community. The city of Miami and its environment, Miami-Dade County, of all the cities in the United States, the biggest 25 cities, we are at the bottom in terms of poverty. We are at the bottom. And so we understand the fact that they need to upgrade the systems, they need to upgrade transportation in the city. But you need to also look at what effect you have on the residents. I can afford the toll rate that you guys talked about. I can because I work in a job I'm lucky enough to be able to afford it. But I work in a situation where I take care of the low-income residents. I'm the Director of Community Development in the City of Miami. So I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm talking about the residents who you have to use the toll road to go to work every day and who have to rely on the roads. I mean, and if they are paying $1 before, then now they have to pay $2.40. While I was looking at, one of the things that I understand was the reason was that there has to be a closed loop, that some people were paying, some were not paying. And I look at it and I said, no, I don't want to use some bad words here, but that's really not a reason. If you use that reason, then you look at the fact that if you go to New York and look at the Holland Tunnel, that it's only one-way toll. Nobody says that somebody is not paying their fair share, and therefore, instead of $6 going to New Jersey, they're going to make it $12, so that you pay $6 going to New Jersey, $6 going out. Whoever developed the system developed it in such a way that the toll that is collected one way should be enough to upgrade the system. If there's a need to increase the toll, it has to be done in such a way that it's reasonable. From $1 to $2.40, I think is too much. I think that the board needs to reconsider this decision. It's not too late. Yes, you've invested in systems and in all collection methods that you have on the system, but you can go back and look at it and say, maybe instead of $2.40, maybe we can charge $2. Maybe we can charge $1.70. I think $2.40 is just too much. On 112, you go from, I used to travel when I'm in Peru Pines, I used to go from 95, go to 112 North, and then go on 17th Avenue. Yesterday, I used that road, and it's 35 cents to go to 112. That's less than half a mile. I mean, this is highway robbery. I think that you guys really need to look at it. I think that we are for improving the system, but you got to look at a better way of improving the system and not at the backs of your taxpayers. There will be a point will come, everybody will go either take 12th Street or take Flagler or some other street, and then you are inconveniencing the community. So I think you need to take a look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward and speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Jorge Rovirosa. I'm here with the Port of Miami Terminal Operating Company. We're one of the largest terminal operators at the Port of Miami. And along with me is a representative of Seaboard Marine, the largest cargo operator at the port. We wanted to come here and thank this board, specifically our chair lady, who has looked at what we have considered a vital interest to our community, which is the trucking transportation to and from the seaport. I have been working with Director Rodriguez for several years to see how we could get this industry more involved in the utilization of our expressways in order to maximize the number of turnaround trips that these truckers do into the port. I think you all know that transportation is vital to the economic development of any city and any region, and probably quoting some numbers that were given to me by a former county manager, 3 out of 5 citizens in this county derive their income directly or indirectly from international trade and commerce. So this is vital. We have seen our truckers avoid the interstate or the expressway systems because of the tolls. They are the weakest link in our transportation logistic chain, and they need some real help. And I know that this board has been working on some innovative ways of addressing this, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for the steps that you are considering and taking. So perhaps my colleague here from Seaboard Marine would like to add to what I...
I think you've said it well. The economic impact of the port was estimated at something like $18 billion. Having the truckers have the ability to get in and out of the port in an efficient manner and use the highways is really what it's all about. And if we can keep them competitive, keep South Florida competitive, then I'm in favor.
For the record, if you can state your name and address.
My name is Armando Verona, Director of Sales for Seaboard Marine.
Okay.
And our port director is here, Juan Curila. Juan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Juan Curila, Director, Port Miami. Just very briefly, I want to echo the comments made by Mr. Rovirosa and Mr. Barona. I recall many years back looking at the issue of the tunnel and building the tunnel, whether or not there was going to be a toll on the tunnel. And the conversation surfaced. You know, if we have a toll on the tunnel, we become less competitive. If I were the port director in Port Everglades, the first thing I would tell the shipping line is, hey, Miami has a tunnel and they have a toll. We don't. So we applaud your efforts in looking at an innovative way and any sort of reduction from the current toll structure that you have for the trucks, you know, going into and leaving the port. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to address this board? Seeing none, now this portion of our agenda is now closed. Thank you very much for all that took the time to come out today and address us and give us your thoughts. We will take each and every item under great advisement, and as you watch this board and this agency move forward every day and every meeting, you will see new innovative ways that we will do to effectively help those commuters, those users of our expressway, either being a passenger or even a trucker, like we just heard, to help you ease that ouch from our tolls. The decisions that we took were not taken lightly. It took many years for us to get to that point, and I will say, we cannot roll back the tolls. We will work to give you discounts. We cannot work to roll back the tolls, and the reasons for that is the bonds have been sold, so now we move forward in what we call the discount programs that will help each and every one. If you stay today, you will listen and learn what else we have done to improve the services and what we're going to do with those monies collected. And with that, we move forward, and the next item is approval of the summary of the minutes. Do I hear a motion? Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone would like to be recorded as a no? Thank you. Next item, Executive Director's Report.
Hold on a second. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Madam Chair, board members, thank you for the opportunity. Rather than give you the standard report of meetings we've attended and so on and so forth, I wanted to take the opportunity to speak about a lot of things that have been going on at the agency for the last year and some of the highlights looking forward. It's been customary that I've done this in the past 6, 7 years that I've been here, so I will start off with number one. I think Mr. Percival asked, and for the record, the Public Works did approach us yesterday at the MPO meeting. We are going to work together with them, so it is not going to fall under the wayside, so that you, for the record, okay? As far as the authority in a year in review, in October, Chairwoman Gutierrez challenged us to look at new innovative safety projects on our highways. As I've always said, there's 3 E's that go into looking at your highways: engineering, enforcement, and education. On the enforcement component, we continue to work with law enforcement to improve our safety. On the education component, we've been working with the school system, both higher and lower education, on road safety. Actually published a workbook that was showcased at the book fair. And this is long overdue, getting this conversation in the school system. But on the engineering front, in October, we spoke about new reflective striping that actually will use different type of beading so that even under rainy conditions, which is Miami-Dade County on any summer day, that the driver can actually see the stripes. Whereas right now, when it rains, the reflectivity of the striping actually deadens it and you can't see it. That striping, that specification has been included in our projects, and as projects come online, new striping will be in place. We also looked at high crash locations or areas that are dark. Because our main highway is adjacent to the airport, we have restrictions on the way we can light. So we introduced in-road reflective pavement markers that are actually solar powered, and we've priced them. And starting in January, you're going to see segments of our highway on 836 primarily where those in-road RPMs, reflective pavement markers, will be installed. On the safety front, I am very proud to announce that for the third consecutive year, we've had a reduction in fatalities. Look, we don't control how people drive or how fast they drive. Like I said, the 3 E's is what controls it. But whatever we can manage from an engineering, education, or enforcement standpoint, we have done so. And we've seen that rate continues to go down. We'll never be happy because one fatality is too much. On the Road Ranger front, Road Rangers, as everyone knows, is a 24/7, 365-day service that we provide to the commuters of the expressway system. This last year, we've handled over 17,000 events on our highways. That's everyone from a simple breakdown to assisting in an accident and clearing the roadway as soon as possible. 17,000 events. We, last year, awarded a new contract to a new vendor, Ted and Stan Towing. And we were concerned about that transition. The transition happened on December 31st of 2013, and I'm pleased and very happy to report that not only has their fleet been more effective, cost-effective, fuel-efficient, but more responsive, and I'm very happy to report that. On the asset maintenance, there's an item before you today because we had to transition from Transfield, who is getting out of the roadway business, and we will be awarding a new agreement today, hopefully. And the new contract before you will handle more assets at a more economical rate. So the point is that we always look at opportunities to reduce our operating cost. The highlights of the new contract are flexibility on optional services. Too often we've come before this board and said, you know, this particular vendor went out of business and our hands are tied. How do we handle this particular issue? And then we're on an emergency status. What we've done is looked ahead to see what of those services can be included in asset maintenance on an as-needed basis where we get pricing in 2014. We may never need to use it in the term of the contract, but it's available to us if necessary, so our backs are not against the wall in the future. As far as our current roadway system, I'm asked this all the time. All of our pavement condition on our highways exceed all of the criteria that the state and the Transportation Commission has set forth. All of our bridges are in good or excellent condition. So that story that we all saw, and I get dozens of calls and emails that was featured on 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago of our crumbling infrastructure, I'm very happy to report that on the expressway system for the Miami-Dade Expressway, none of our bridges are in bad condition. They're not crumbling. They're being maintained on an annual basis. In fact, every 2 years, inspection reports are done in cooperation with the Florida Department of Transportation. On our capital program, what we do with the money and how we put it to work. When we set the toll rates last year, and we made a commitment to the board that all of the projects that we highlighted on 836 and on the 874 and the design work on the Gratigny extending west would be done within the 5 years, we didn't just give lip service. We are on the agenda today. You'll be selecting the construction inspection and engineering services for the construction of the segment of 836 between 57th Avenue and 17th Avenue. That's a project that will add a lane in each direction, not just simply for capacity, board members. It's to fix the operational deficiencies and add full shoulders and fix the deficiencies on interchanges that were built in the mid-60s for traffic that has greatly outgrown over the years. The significance of a project like that is that it allows us to continue to work with Miami-Dade Transit to implement bus or express buses on our expressway system. If you notice, all of 836, west of the Palmetto, all of our bridges and our shoulders are full shoulder widths with full depth pavement, so buses would be able to operate. Problem is they'd get to the Palmetto interchange and they can't keep going further east because there are no shoulders. So Section 5, or the big 826, 836 interchange, starts fixing that, and the projects we have to the east will continue to do that. Phase 1 that we are trying to implement with Miami-Dade Transit is service from West Kendall to the Miami Intermodal Center, to the hub of transportation services in Miami-Dade County. On 874 and 878, we already allow, and we have allowed, buses to use our shoulders since 2007. In fact, those routes of Kendall-Cat have increased over 30% in ridership because it's more reliable. They don't get stuck in the same traffic. We can't solve all transportation problems, but if we can use our highways more efficiently, I think it's a step in the right direction. The other thing is that I always get questions on is, it doesn't matter what you do on the expressway, it's always going to be congested. Board members, the latent demand on State Road 836 is such that even if we put 10 lanes in each direction, it would be congested. You may not see congestion on the city streets, but the expressway would be congested. It simply does not make economic sense to widen our highways to that level, which is why the only solution in our current master plan and our future strategic plan addresses technology and transit as the solution. Can we force everybody into transit? We can't. But we have to make those choices available to them and convenient to them. And we're working with Miami-Dade Transit and municipalities to effect that. On State Road 836, we also have a project at 87th Avenue, the interchange improvements, and I want to thank the Freight Transportation Advisory Committee of the MPO, who actually encouraged us to put the money towards the improvements of that interchange to make that interchange freight-friendly to the cargo community in West Dade, in the West Dade cargo area. That project design is complete. It will be let for construction next summer, and construction will start. We had to wait till 836, 826 was well advanced before we can proceed with that project. The final project that I wanted to discuss is what we call 836-11, which is the portion of 836 from 17th Avenue to I-95, where we will improve the interchange with I-95 and the movements on 836 going north to 95. Not only are we going to do that, but we're going to widen the bridge over the Miami River, which right now is an artificial bottleneck because it's only 3 lanes in each direction. That project, as I've stated in the past, will be a partnership of Florida Department of Transportation and their I-395 reconstruction project and pavement rehabilitation on I-95. Those projects are being developed together. The procurement documents will be worked on together, and hopefully we will be awarding that project in 2016, if my memory serves me correct. So we will be coming back to this board to further explain the project and get joint participation agreements in place with the Florida Department of Transportation, as is customary. Final 2 items that I wanted to address is the strategic plan. The strategic plan that we started since last year is well underway. We are basically at the midpoint, and in January we will hold a workshop with the entire board to present our midpoint report. The strategic plan is focusing on 3 elements. Number 1 is technology. How do we maximize and take and leverage technology to enhance and make more efficient the flow of goods and services and people, goods and services on our expressways? That is a staple of our strategic plan. We will also further develop how we interact with transit. As we've said in the past, we are not a transit operator. We're not interested in operating buses, but we are interested in providing the infrastructure, whether it is the roadway or the terminals, be it park and ride facilities or such, to make sure that the community has options. That is going to be another staple of our strategic plan. And the third component of our strategic plan is how can we maximize non-tolled revenues. As we've stated many, many times at this board and during the public hearings that were held last year, just depending on the tolls itself is not the best approach forward. We need to look at other opportunities of generating the revenue necessary, which are non-tolled. Those are 3 areas that we will discuss in January. Public is invited to listen in those conversations. As far as the action that we took November 15th, where we went live with open road tolling, from an engineering standpoint, from a technology standpoint, it was a smooth transition. That evening, all the gantries are live. There are some ramps that are going to go live periodically. Our discount program, this last Friday, we had our policy and planning meeting, and we discussed the discount program. And one of the comments and one of the agreements and directions that was given to us by Chair Fano and Chair Gutierrez is that the sign-up period for this first year, rather than just being 30 days as our policy states, because it's the first year, let's extend it to 90 days. The key for MDX is to know how many people will sign up by the time we prepare a budget and present it to the board, because we have to understand what the potential pay rebate program would mean financially and report that in our finances. And as you've heard some of the public say, you know, there's an agenda item today for the multi-axle frequency program, which we're very enthusiastic about, because it again reflects what the policy of this board and the direction and goals of this board has been for many, many years, which is to promote the safe and efficient movement of goods on our expressways. And before I go completely hoarse, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, safe, healthy 2015 for everyone on the board. Thank you.
Very good. Are there any questions for our executive director?
Would the executive director also explain the MPO as it affects, the MPO approved the 5-year plan?
Yes.
So we're moving to, we're going to take advantage of moving on to the next item. No questions no questions for Javier? Very good.
The highlight of the MPO is that the Florida Department of Transportation presented its tentative work program. And its tentative work program is a 5-year work plan where you drop the current year, you add a new year based on future revenues. The highlights, and I don't want to speak for Secretary Pago, but as it relates to the Expressway Authority, we're very, very happy with the investments that the Florida Department of Transportation are making in Miami, because it's simply about safety. And being a transportation engineer, having worked at the Florida DOT, there was nothing that made me happier than seeing I-395 funded in that 5-year plan in its entirety, and that the entire corridor of Chrome Avenue is fully funded from the truck bypass in Homestead to US 27. And this is a project that is going to save lives. And that was, if anything, that made me happy. That made me happy. So congratulations, Gus, and to your team. And that was the highlight, Mr. Ferre, Vice Chair Ferre, about the MPO.
Madam
and it's
Chair,
going to be.
may I take the opportunity to expand a little bit on that? I just want to tell you that I also want to include in the kudos Chairman Sosa, who personally, even though it's not in her district, took it upon herself to assure that the Chrome Avenue project was accelerated and that all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted. And I think Gus, you and all of the people at FDOT really went out of their way to not only meet the requirements but to exceed them. And I think there have been some tragic deaths on Chrome Avenue, especially in this last fiscal year, and hopefully that we'll see the end of that, and that this is money well spent. I also just want to comment so that people understand. Right now, Washington is at a complete standstill, and there's no money coming to Florida. There's really very, very little. It's a trickle. And fortunately, your state, through the wisdom of this governor and past governors, all the past governors, have been funding transportation in Florida from our tax dollars. So right now, almost 70% of the $10.3 billion that the state spends in FDOT, almost 70% of that money is state of Florida money. Now, you say, well, we're not getting our fair share. Well, let me tell you that we used to get from Washington 70% of what we sent up. That is now up to 90%. So we have been significantly improved the amount of money that comes from Washington while we maintain those monies. In addition to that, Florida is probably the best state out of 50 in maintenance. So we spend the majority of our money, and that's $10 billion, in maintaining. Now, that's the good news. Now, let me tell you the bad news. The bad news is in the next 5 years, Gus and his department will only have $1.3 billion of hard money to spend on construction for projects, of which, if you take into account Chrome and 3 other projects, we only have money for 4 important projects out of 20 that we need. Out of 20 projects that we need, we have the money for 4 in the next 5 years. So, you know, everybody wants to go to heaven, and nobody wants to die. Everybody wants their roads. Or they want efficiency. They want the services, but they don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to pay the fees. They don't want to pay the charges. And so I just want to tell you that the fact is that through the MPO, FDOT and District 6 is doing a wonderful job. And I think Secretary Anath Prasad, Madam Chair, is leaving. And I think at an appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to thank him for his 4 years of service as as one of the best secretaries of FDOT that we've had. And that concludes
That concludes your report. Very good. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Secretary Pagel.
Thank you.
That means your budget increased.
A little bit.
The work program got better.
Yes.
Excellent. We move on to the treasurer's report, Marie.
Madam Chair, what we'd like to do is move the treasurer's report and the comments on the treasurer's report to right before item 9B, which is going to be the comprehensive annual report, so that it can all be done together. And at this point, I'd like, our newest employee, Mr. Saldivar, to do his report, which is the council's report, if that's okay with you.
Okay, very good.
Happy holidays to all. Before I move forward with my report, I would just like to ask, Board Member Gonzalez, is there any conflicts you might report on any items on the agenda? Okay, then we move forward with the agenda. I have 5 items to report. Update on ETC litigation. We were informed by outside counsel that the plaintiff CEO experienced a very serious medical condition, so the plaintiff moved for a 6-month postponement on the trial that was scheduled to begin on February 9th, 2014. I have a meeting scheduled with litigation counsel tomorrow. If there are any additional details, I will advise. 2, ethics training. After reviewing some of the older board meetings, videos, I saw my predecessor would provide some ethics training during the meetings. I would like to restart that program in January. 3, policy review. Under the direction of the board members Smith-Fano, Ms. Stillman, and I are looking forward to assisting in reviewing all the current MDX policies. For transition, I've met with Mr. Weiss and his staff and have a transition plan in place. I would like to publicly thank Mr. Weiss and his staff for all the work they've done and for being so available and accommodating to me and, from what I understand in the past, to the board. Lastly, Chair touched on it. I would like to meet all the board members individually. I've already met with the chair and the vice chair, and I would like to get this project done at Christmas, so I will be contacting you in the very near future. Thank you.
That concludes your report. Did
Yes.
you see how I passed right over your
Yes.
item? I was
I
wondering.
know where I am on your pecking order now.
And so sorry, I was so concentrating on writing down your name so I wouldn't forget that I passed right over you, so I apologize for that.
That's fine.
With that, the committee reports are part of the agenda. Please forgive me, okay? I will try not to do it again. We move on to the consent agenda. Council. That would be your cue. Your consent agenda would be the travel approval in January to Orlando by board member and executive director Rodriguez, to the Team Florida annual joint meeting. And I'm very proud of myself because I'm actually reading this and don't have my reading glasses so I could see it. I am like amazed I can actually see this. And also on February 8th to trip to Washington, D.C. You're going to the Leadership Academy. Is there an approval?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Anyone against? Very good. We move on to the regular agenda. And you know we have a first item, which actually is H.
It will be H.
moved. Yes.
So we're going to move that to item A. Approval of multi-axle frequency discount policy endorsed by the Policy and Planning Committee on December 5th, 2014.
If I may, I'd like to make a motion, as was approved by the Policy and Planning Committee on December 5th, to approve the multi-axle frequency discount policy.
Absolutely. I accept the motion. Is there a second? There's a second. The item is now open for discussion. Who's going to present this item? Because this
You'd
is
like
a
me to
very
present?
exciting.
I would be happy to present
This is
it.
a very exciting item because not only we got the Advantage program kicking in January, which is for passengers,
Madam.
and now we have a program for truckers, and this is business at its best.
Madam
So,
Chair,
let's go.
commencing tonight at midnight, assuming the board votes favorably for this item, all multi-axle vehicles that have a valid sun pass, and that's the catch, they have to have a valid sun pass affixed to their vehicle, will be charged a maximum of 3-axle rate on all of our expressways, the MDX expressways, not just State Road 836, but State Road 112, State Road 874, 878, and 924. The movement of goods and services between our ports has been a goal, as I stated in my report, of this authority since its inception. In fact, when I was at the Department of Transportation and we spoke about moving forward with a port tunnel, I made a public statement back then that said, if anybody's looking at the tunnel as the silver bullet to solve all issues related to traffic in and out of the port, you're kidding yourself. We need multiple modes of transportation, including rail, and we need support from Florida's Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, and the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority as it relates to 112 and 836 to really make the movement of goods between our ports and our distribution centers efficient. This policy shall be in effect this evening, midnight.
That means we need a unanimous vote, as we all vote. We have members of the public that are here that spoke before us. Again, if they want to come up and tell us how much this impacts them, because it's a very positive.
Actually, Mario, if you could put up, because this is a part of the presentation we made on Friday, just for representative, just what this means to a toll. Mario, stay, because I want to show 112. And I also want to show 836. I can't control it from here, so I need you to drive. If you look at State Road 836, prior to November 15th, a truck, a 5-axle, which is a tractor-trailer, going from 137th Avenue and making a round trip all the way to the port and back. And again, that's a representative trip. There's not many 5-axles that go all the way, but we wanted to make sure that we included what the price was, is a $12 round trip. When we went live on November 15th, that same trip for that same 5-axle vehicle became $19.20 round trip. With this proposal, the trip goes down to $9.60, which is actually cheaper than it was before. If you look at State Road 112, the round trip was $4. Trucks only paid eastbound. They didn't pay westbound. With the current system, it's $7 for the round trip. With the proposed policy, it's $2.80. Again, it is our encouragement for those trucks to use the highways and make as many turns as possible, because that is what's going to move our economy. That's just a representative of presentation. 924, 878, and 874 are also included in the program.
Very good. Are there any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, I would like to ask Mr. Weiss and our new, our city attorney, our MDX attorney, Mr. Saldivar, and through Mr. Saldivar, if Mr. Weiss wants to comment, does this cause us any legal problems with our bonds, and have you discussed this with bond counsel?
I would defer to Marie Schaefer. She did consult with bond counsel and said this is okay with
I just want that on the record, is what I'm saying.
It's on the record. I will be very clear. In part of the presentation at policy, all those issues were discussed. If not, they wouldn't have moved forward. So, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just asking for the record, Madam Chair, that's all.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Gutierrez, we did check with bond counsel, and we went over the policy with them, and they're comfortable with the language that is in the policy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Very good, very valid question, and very pointed. We cannot do anything that jeopardizes anything that we've done, and because we want to move forward together. This is a very positive situation, a very positive move in our part, and if anyone would like any other questions, any concerns, now is the time. But please hold your peace with a good yes. All those in favor? Anyone against? All right, congratulations to our truckings. Very good, thank you. Now we move on to the next item on the agenda, which was really item A.
Okay. Approval of fiscal year 2014 comprehensive annual financial report and assets disposal, endorsed by the Budget and Finance Committee on November 19, 2014.
Very good. Is there a motion on this item? Is there a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so she moved, you're second. Now this item is open for discussion. Yes, our CFO.
Yes, ma'am. This item is a couple of components to it, this particular item. This is our annual comprehensive annual financial report, our single audit, our compliance report for fiscal year 14. And our fiscal year, just a reminder to everybody, it's July 1st of 2013 to June 30th of 2014. The report was audited by our independent external auditors, Moore, Steve, Lovelace. This report is obviously required under state statute as well as SEC guidelines, which we file with the state of Florida, the Auditor General, Security Exchange Commission, because we do have debt in the open market, as well as the Florida Transportation Commission, the rating agencies, as well as other organizations that have oversight to MDX. So that's really the purpose of the audited financial statements. We also take the additional step of actually preparing what's called the popular annual financial report. And I believe we handed it out, it's in everyone's package. And the purpose of this report, it's not a requirement, but the report is really a summarization of our financials, as well as some additional information about MDX as far as how MDX spends its money. We collect how much money, where we spend our money, and actually what the money goes towards. So it's actually a pretty good Cliff Note version of the financial statements. This will also be posted on our website should anybody not have a handout to it. Our external auditors did present the findings at the Budget and Finance meeting on November 19th. They presented the results of the financial information, as well as they presented to the governing board any issues as far as relates to compliance of internal controls, as well as policies and procedures. There were no findings that they reported of. They had some improvement of recommendations. We did receive from the external auditors an unmodified opinion, which what that means is a clean opinion. There were no adjustments that needed to be made. They did present at Budget and Finance some of the highlights. If I could just kind of summarize some of the highlights. We had a call modification, Series 2013B. MDX received $3.7 million, and that money was used primarily for the debt for fiscal year 14. We also issued new debt, 2014A. That was to fund the capital program. The capital program spent about $125 million towards infrastructure in the fiscal year, of which $16 million went towards small business and local business organizations. Some of the financial highlights on the operating revenue side, we had about $130 million compared to prior year. It was $135. So it was $5 million lower than prior year, which we expected. And that was primarily due to starting July 1st, 2013. We removed the $3 administration fee. So the board changed the policy, so we were prepared. We knew that we would have a little bit lower revenue. On the expense side, fiscal year operations was $23.5 million. And we had a lengthy discussion at Budget and Finance compared to fiscal 13, which was $16.7 million. And the differential was really due to a one-time adjustment in fiscal 13 that we had a favorable motion for summary judgment related to the litigation of $6.8 million. And as I indicated at that meeting, had we not had that adjustment, fiscal year 14 and fiscal year 13's operating expenses would pretty much be equal, about $23.5 million. On the maintenance side, our maintenance was $6.3 million in fiscal year 14, and that's about a $500,000 increase from the prior year, and that was mainly due to, obviously, we're maintaining more of a system, so that was directly related to expansion of the system. On the administration side, for fiscal year 14, it's about $3.8 million compared to $3.6 million in fiscal year 13, about a $200,000 increase. The administration covers all the salaries, tax and benefits, administration costs, insurance costs, and the headquarters costs. Overall, for fiscal year 14, we posted a very important number is our senior debt coverage ratio, which is a 1.58, and that's above the board policy of the 1.5. So those are the highlights that we presented. If I may, Madam Chair, I would ask Randy Topol, who is our financial advisors, to kind of just give a little overview of some of the debt management practices we had put in place in the last couple of years.
I did want to ask you two questions. Your operations, how many employees did we grow in 1 year?
We did not add any new positions. We had filled some unfilled positions.
Okay, so that didn't grow. And how often do we get audited?
Once a year.
So we do get audited?
Yes, the external auditors
I just wanted to clarify, because a lot of people think that we don't get audited. And I don't think anybody that handles public money does not get audited.
We
so
actually got audited in fiscal year 14 twice. The Auditor General had come down and they wanted to look at our practice and procedures. So we were audited by the state of Florida as well as audited by the external auditors. There were no findings by the Auditor General. Matter of fact, they complimented our organization, particularly in Helen's area. They spent a lot of time in Helen's area in procurement, the policies and procedures, as well as the documentation in the procurement files. So they're very complimentary to the procurement department.
Yes. Welcome, Mr.
Randy Topol, First Southwest Financial Advisor. It's always good to be here. We wanted to kind of do a recap over this last year, but we really can't talk about this last year in a vacuum because it took a couple years to lay the groundwork, prepare everything to make sure that we could go into this year of implementing a very large capital program on the right footing. About 2 years ago, we went through a detailed process and we reevaluated the debt, investment, and swap policies to make sure that they were enhanced, brought up to current standards in the best light that the rating agencies would be looking at. We did this on a proactive basis because our partners, the bondholders, the higher our credit rating, the lower the costs that we have to put towards interest expense. In 2013, we started our first refinancing. We did over $30 million in present value savings, and that created a bridge program from then to now to allow us to go through this whole process and get all the planning done. Also in 2013, we also retired some additional debt above and beyond. In 2014 is when we implemented the capital plan. Now, what was so important about this capital plan is for this time, we were issued the debt just like the state does, level debt service, which was the first time it's happened since we've been here. The other key component is almost 45% of this program is being funded from coverage. That is a very important part because you're not paying interest on that pay-as-you-go portion. And coverage is an important part of that. And when the Vice Chair was mentioning that the Tallahassee now gives us 90% of the monies that we collect and we send up, well, 100% of your monies go back into infrastructure projects right here locally. It doesn't go anywhere else. So every coverage dollar that you have for the next 5 years is committed for this 5-year program. So no extra dollars. Whatever anyone's been talking about anywhere else, 100% of it's going because it reduced the amount of bonds we had to sell, which the rating agencies did appreciate. And we could tell quite clearly on our last pricing, which we essentially priced well through our level of ratings. And finally, to sum up this year's worth of financings, we did a program of refundings to take some credit risk off the debt side. We heard about variable rate debt. We took off 2/3 of your variable rate exposure. We did it in a form and fashion that allowed you to save money, not only in debt, par amount of bonds, total debt service, but also on a present value basis. All three levels, it was a triple win for us. And the key component that I'd like to say is we shortened the life of the debt by 6.5 years. So the bonds aren't going to be outstanding nearly as long as what they originally were. So all those different components were major wins of this year, but it wasn't something that just happened this year. This was carefully planned out over the last couple of years, and we were able to implement it based off all the instructions that we received from this body.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions to Mr. Toll? Yes.
Yeah. Randy, so you said you eliminated 6.5 years?
Yes.
Explain that, elaborate a little bit further, and then the follow-up question is, how does that translate to our benefit? And what is the benefits in a quantitative manner?
And, you saved about, let's see, 17, no, that's...
The overall debt, if I recall, Randy, went down by, I think, about $73 million by shortening that debt.
Yeah, I have all my notes right here. I'm ready to go. Shortening it was $63.4 million. Shortening it was 63.7. Converting the debt from variable rate to fixed rate took 17.6 of credit risk off your books. Now, when we did all this and we shortened it, but we kept our coverages at 1.8 or better. And this is to allow us to have all the cash that we needed for the pay-as-you-go program over the next 5 years, and then also going forward. If the program wants another pay-as-you-go program going forward, you have the ability. If you want to retire debt, you have the ability. It's all up to the discretion of this board at that time.
Yeah. Thank you, Randy. Madam Chair, I think I wanted to emphasize that point because I think we hear a lot about how we're spending and what we're doing, and it seems like that type of information doesn't get out there very often. So I wanted to ask Randy again to emphasize that, and thank you for doing that because I feel responsible, and I came here as a volunteer to ensure that things like that happen using professional staff. So, but unfortunately, sometimes that's overlooked, and I wanted to take the moment to thank Randy, obviously the wonderful staff that we have in Marie and other consultants, but it's a true significant saving, and it needs to be emphasized, and I wanted to emphasize it. Thank you.
I want to say in closing, where many of the entities across the United States are adding debt and extending debt, this body went the exact opposite direction. So congratulations on that.
And that's very important for the community to realize that we're doing the reverse. We're not out there just spending, we're there saving. So thank you very much, team. As always,
yeah, Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt you, but you know when I hear comments that we're out of control and no oversight, and that's really not to mention that it offends me, but this is the antithesis of that we are very responsive and we are doing what we're supposed to be doing as a volunteer. So again, I thank you, Randy and staff.
We don't see when we got the bat and we're batting everybody, yep. Right? We're hitting everybody. Very good. We have any other questions or comments from the board? We have a motion.
Move it.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Item passes. We move on to the next item.
MDX procurement contract number RFQ 14-06, Municipal Financial Services, endorsed by the Budget and Finance Committee on November 19th, 2014. Approval to select and enter into contract negotiations with the #1 ranked proposer.
Very good. Exciting. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
This item is now opened for discussion.
Would you like?
Absolutely, Helen.
Thank you. As mentioned, the motion requested today is to approve this and select and enter into a contract negotiations with the number one ranked proposer, First Southwest Company. This item was endorsed by the Budget and Finance Committee. MDX received 4 proposals in response to the request for qualifications from Gratigny and Company, First Southwest Company, Northwest Financial Group, and Public Financial Management. One of the proposals, Gratigny and Company, as approved by the Budget and Finance, was deemed non-responsive to the requirements of the RFQ. The remaining of the responsive proposals were evaluated by the Technical Evaluation Committee, and you have a tabulation sheet in your package that shows the final scores, which reflect First Southwest as the number one ranked proposer. Subject to the approval of this board, staff will negotiate a contract, a method of compensation with First Southwest Company and bring back a negotiated contract for committee and board approval in January.
Any questions from the board members? First Southwest is the incumbent, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Any questions on this item? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? May be recorded. Item carries unanimously. Congratulations to the team. They've always done a great job, and we look forward to more good work. Next item.
MDX procurement contract number RFP 11-03, Traffic and Revenue Consultant Services, endorsed by the Operations Committee on December 2nd, 2014. Approval of contract extension with CDM Smith, formerly known as Wilbur Smith Associates, Inc.
Very good. Is there a motion on this item?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, item is open for discussion. Helen, or we're going for Toledo?
Board members, staff is recommending the renewal of the contract with CDM Smith for the Traffic and Revenue Services. These services ensure compliance with the MDX Trust Indenture and provide supports for the MDX 5-year work program, as well as continuity to continue analyzing the data as we continue the transition to open road tolling on 836 and 112. To date, they've been performing at a rating of outstanding performance. Therefore, we're putting this item in front of the board for approval.
The extension is part of their contract.
That is correct. They have a 1-year maximum extension on their contract.
Very good. Any questions?
So, Juan, that means that next year we'll be going out for bid for this item?
That is correct. This contract would expire in February of 2016, so we anticipate that around the summer timeframe, we would be going back out to the street with these services.
Very good. Any other questions?
I'll move the item, Your
Do you
Honor.
have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Item carries. Congratulations again to CDM Smith. Item D.
MDX procurement contract number RFQ 15-02. MDX work program number 83628.050. Construction, engineering, and inspection services for the design, build project of State Road 836 operational capacity and interchange improvement, endorsed by the Operations Committee on December 2nd, 2014.
Exciting one.
Approval.
Is there a motion?
Move it.
Is it second? It's open now for discussion. You can keep telling me.
The motion, the requested action today is to approve the selected number one ranked proposer, New Millennium Engineering, and direct staff to negotiate and enter into a contract for not to exceed amount of $12.6 million, which is the engineer's estimate. This item was endorsed by the Operations Committee. MDX received 3 proposals in response to the RFQ from American Engineering Group, New Millennium Engineering, and Parsons Sprinklehoff. All 3 proposals were responsive to the requirements of the RFQ and evaluated by the Technical Evaluation Committee. As noted in the tabulation sheet that's in your package, New Millennium was the number one ranked proposer. This contract includes a 15% small business participation requirement, as well as a 15% local business participation requirement. The contract term would concur with the design build project, which is currently estimated for 4.5 years. Staff will negotiate, this is a CEI contract, so the procedures that we have in place is that as long as we negotiate a contract within the engineer's estimate, this item will not come back to the committee and board for approval. So this action would include the award and entering into a contract with a successful proposer. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Yep.
Yes.
Madam Chair, as a relatively new board member, I have a question.
Again?
So
I like that one. We were missing that one.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that he can no longer say he's a new member of the board. Seconded by.
Is it typical?
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I have some questions too.
Some
as a new
resolutions
board.
for 2015, I'll work on that. Helen, usually when we have a procurement that, if we're within that budget, this is consistent with our procurement policies?
Construction, engineering, and inspection services only, because in those contracts, you're only negotiating the number of hours. We have already the cap rate for all the different classifications of work. So for a CEI contract, that is the procedure that we've established. The rest of the contracts, not the same.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other concerns?
Well, Ms. Chair, I chair the Operations Committee when we heard on this matter. If you recall, one of the things I found particularly exciting and positive is that this was not only the highest rated of the three firms, but it was also the lowest bid of the three firms as well. And in some occasions, we've had to deal with that, although all three were qualified and they were quite successful in what they're doing. But I think
it's
something
good that you really are doing the same thing as I was doing with council, but that is the next item.
Oh, I did the same thing? I dropped the ball. So I would now, because we did the H thing, I'm totally confused, and I will now shut up.
This item
I'm
is
confused.
exciting because this one is on 836. That's what they're going to be inspecting, Northwest 57th Avenue to 17th Avenue. So
it's the same one.
It's pretty exciting. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes, it was D2.
Anyone against? This, congratulations, moving forward.
Yes.
By the way, no more cookies for us. We want to go too fast. Here we go.
The next item.
Next item.
MDX procurement contract number RFP 15-03, asset maintenance services, $46 million, endorsed by the Operations Committee on December 2nd, 2014. Approval of Technical Evaluations Committee's recommendations to select the number one ranked proposer. Approval of contract award.
Very good. Is there a motion on this item? I know you want it.
Oh, I'm not going to say anything now.
No. You want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
You're making the motion. Motion and a second. The item is now open for discussion. Helen?
The requested action is to approve to select and enter into a contract with the number one ranked proposer, which is Florida Drawbridge, doing business as FDI Services. This was endorsed by the Operations Committee. The scope of services that was put out with the request for proposal included optional services such as road ranger services and an enhancement program for the roadway lighting monitoring, as well as temporary maintenance and operations of the MIC should we need those services. 4 firms submitted technical and price proposals: DVI Services, FDI Services, IIPL CIMIX, and Infrastructure Corporation of America, or ICA. All 4 proposals were responsive to the requirements of the RFP and were forwarded for evaluation to the Technical Evaluation Committee. Proposals needed to receive a minimum of 750 points in order for the price proposals to be open. All price proposals were open at the tech meeting, and the technical score were weighted at 40%, and price proposals were weighted at 60%. As established in the RFP, the price proposal amount for evaluation purposes excluded the cost of the optional services for road rangers and the roadway lighting monitoring system enhancements. The number one ranked proposal with the highest technical score and the lowest price proposal is FDI Services, with a price of $7,653,966.55, which is 1.9% below the engineer's estimate. There was a price analysis performed by our GECs, which support the pricing of the lowest price submitted. The price proposals submitted for the optional services were substantially higher than we had anticipated of the engineer's estimate. Therefore, staff is recommending that we don't exercise those optional services today, but that we keep the services in the scope of services of the contract to be exercised by MDX if found to be in our best interest in the future. The contract term is for 5 years and 5 months with options to renew for up to 2 terms of 2 years each at MDX's discretion. The price proposal remains in effect for the term of the contract with no escalation, including any exercise renewals. This contract includes a 15% small business participation as well as a 15% local business participation. Staff is also recommending that the contract amount for the 5-year and 5-month term be $46 million. The budget for this contract is approved on a yearly basis as part of the operational budget that is approved by this board.
It's a huge contract. Would you like to add something?
I would like to add, Madam Chair, when we brought this item to the board early this year, we made the recommendation to move forward with this reprocurement in the hopes that we would see better pricing now for the next 5 years rather than wait and see where the market will put us 2 years down the road.
You remember the conversation well, don't you?
Yes,
Because I am going to ask Mr. Bina to add.
I made some very incriminating statements at that meeting, and I'm happy to say that a lot of what we hoped for came through in this procurement. The way we structured this contract without an annual escalation, which is something that we have today, I think that not only are we seeing a savings between the engineer's estimate and the current price, but I think over the term of the contract, we're going to realize a savings that could potentially put us anywhere between $850,000 to $1 million over the life of the initial term, just in the savings on the escalation. So basically, these firms price this contract for the next 5 years, knowing that there's no escalation, which is a huge savings to the MDX. It also allows us to really, forecast our operating budgets over the next 5 years, knowing that this is a fixed amount that's not going to change for us. So, I think, we're very proud of the way this procurement panned out, working with yourself and Mr. Bina. We were able to add other items to this contract that not only provide us the services we had before, but they expand the services. We have TMC operations now. We have, the rapid incident scene clearance. We've added a lot of innovative items to this contract, and we're also, within the next year, we're adding assets, which are now also covered under this price without having to incur additional escalation. So we're very proud of the way this procurement panned out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toledo. Mr. Bina, would you like to add something? And Martinez, I know you want to now.
Just a quick question. You said we left ourselves the option in the eventuality that we may want to have these additional services, but they actually bid it in the actual procurement. They were priced. If I can just get a copy, I wanted to see just how, at what point in time can we negotiate that to make it beneficial, obviously respecting the contract that we have in place, but if it's in our best interest to leverage and negotiate, I would like to see the numbers, just to see, because I think there's economies of scales by keeping it under one contract, and it's kind of like an indirect message to the vendor that I think it may be in their best interest to provide terms that are best for us, but also work for them. So.
Because those prices were not included in the selection process, we could negotiate them.
Okay. Great. So when we can start that, like next year, right? Perfect. Thank you.
Already said my piece, other than the fact that one thing I did forget to mention is the fact that they were under the proposed budget as well. I mean, it's about 2%, which is, again, showing that our staff is doing a wonderful job budgeting what we believe these projects are, because we're seeing more and more bids that are under our proposal, and not a significant amount, but something that is beneficial to our consumers as well.
Very good, thank you. And we thank the Secretary for being our oversight on this procurement. This team that is winning this award is actually a new company to MDX, right? Are they new? Okay, because I haven't seen this name before. So we have a motion, we have a second. Not probably all the other consultants that are part of the prime, but the prime is, no?
Yes, but they are actually the company that we assigned the transfer contract to.
Oh, so they earned their keep and came back and priced it less. So I'm going to say punishment to our engineers I know it's not you, it's the team that supports you. I want to buy you, seriously, I want to buy that engineering team that did the estimate, sharpeners. In Spanish, we say you need to sharpen your pencil. You need to come down on the prices so we can continue to come down and receive these estimates really lower. Need to work on that, okay? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carries. Next item.
MDX procurement contract RFQ 14-01, advertising services, endorsed by the Intergovernmental and Public Communications Committee on December 5th, 2014. Approval to assign the contract with Machado Garcia Sierra LLC for advertising services to PCH LLC. And before discussion, it should be noted that in Section 25 of the contract allows the contract to be assigned with express written consent of MDX.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve this item? Motion? Second? Second. Very good. The item is now open for discussion. Yes, Madam Chair from Policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as sort of a memory clearance thing here, board members are here. We had asked during our budget hearing for a quarterly update of the communications budget, and when we had policy meeting the other day, I had requested that Mario prepare for the board today an overview of the budget. I was wondering if that's available for the board?
Yes, ma'am. That is in with the budget report as well. In the back, we have the line items. If you give me 1 second, I will give you that information.
It's part of the treasurer's report.
I apologize. I wouldn't have expected it to be there. My bad.
We actually kind of just glossed over that today because we went into the annual financial report. But part of the treasurer's report every month, it's usually 30 days behind. But the components of the budget itself is the expenses are broken down by the operations, the maintenance, and administration. And within administration, there is a category that's actually on the second page, which is the public communication budget, and we show the actual month. In this case, this was October's report. We show the actual expenses for October and compare that to the monthly budget. And then there's a year-to-date column that shows for the 4-month period of the fiscal year through October, the actual expenditures year-to-date compared to the year-to-date budget. So Mario can speak to the different categories as far as what tasks have been assigned to the consultant and so forth. But overall, from a financial perspective, the year-to-date, they spent $221,000 compared to $240,000 of the budget. So they're about $19,000 below the budget. But that's not to say that that necessarily is a savings that's going to be ongoing, because it could be task-driven and it's more of a timing issue.
I understand, and thank you for clarifying that it's part of the treasurer's budget. But I guess I'm a little bit confused because we had specifically asked for it as a report. And maybe that's overkill, but that was what we had requested on a quarterly basis.
Is that something that you would like from the finance department to prepare?
Asked for it from the communication marketing department, but whoever wants, it doesn't matter to me who does it as long as it's accurate and it's presented to the board.
Yes, ma'am. We will include that in the next package.
Board Member Fano, as we discussed on Friday, and we got into a lot of line items on the discussion Friday, and I think what we heard was give us a roll-up and give us the items that we're working on and how we're moving. I would recommend to the board for consideration an actual, just like the MPO puts MDX as a line item on its agenda, and we submit a report, and then at the discretion of the MPO, we either have to respond to the report for questions or we don't, that we do the same thing here, and we will add that report on a monthly basis, and we will change it as items go in. I would recommend that rather than it being quarterly, expenditures can be quarterly, but actions of the public communications, because of what we're involved in, could actually be reported on a monthly basis at the board meeting. So if that's okay with you, we will add it as an actual item on the agenda.
That works for me. And I reiterate what I said at policy. The reason I'm doing this is because every time during budget hearing, for lack of a better word, this is always an uber-sensitive line item, and this way will substantiate why you're requesting so much money for communication. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Right. No, I also think that as we spoke on Friday, board member, it's also to make sure that the board is aware of all the activities that are going on. So it would be a comprehensive report included in your agenda, but also distributed to the board members on a monthly basis so that you know what's going on.
Thank
with the
you. I
community.
appreciate that. Thank
Very
you.
good. Good request. This particular item, would you like to add anything else, Helen?
No, ma'am. It's a pretty straightforward. The
It's
contract
actually a
allows
good
for it.
thing. The agency has merged or sold, and some of the principals, the leaders are minority, and it's a really good thing, very exciting for them. And we don't lose the team that has been working with our organization, and I expect a lot of great things from them for MDX. I have a motion and a second, unless you have a question.
Quick comment, Madam Chair. I did have an opportunity to talk to them, and my impression was that we're actually getting, for what we're paying for, we're getting greater depth national footprint. So to me, this was a no-brainer because we're gaining, for the same price, we're gaining national exposure and firms that were not part of the original team. So this is a good deal for us.
Thank you. If you have any questions? No? You're very quiet today. I'm concerned with that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone against? Congratulations, team. The motion carries. And then we're down to our last action item, which is G.
MDX project resolution in support of MDX right-of-way program, endorsed by the Operations Committee on December 2nd, 2014. Approval of resolution number 14-04 for MDX work program, project number A3611, State Road 836 and Interstate 95 interchange improvement. Number 2, approval of resolution number 14-05 for MDX work program, project number 83628, State Road 836 operational capacity and interchange improvements. 3, approval resolution 14-06 for MDX work program, project number 87410, State Road ramp connector to Southwest 128th Street. Mr. Mitchell Bernstein is handling the litigation involved and is here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Very good. Do I hear a motion? Is there a second?
Move it.
Okay, the item is open for discussion.
Board members, as Mr. Salvador read into the record, these are project resolutions for the 3 projects that are listed on the agenda. In order for MDX to acquire real property for the construction of these projects, MDX must pass and record the project resolutions which document the necessity and that these projects will serve a public purpose. These project resolutions would also be used during the eminent domain phase to assist in documenting the necessity of the project at that time.
Very good. Any questions from this item? There is a need, and this is the first step to move forward, right?
Correct.
All right, there's a motion. No questions? Not even from our vice chair, so, all right. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Very good. Item carries. And then that concludes all of the action items. We move on to any informational items that you'd like to add, other than the procurement reports that's in our...
They're in the report. I will be reaching out to board members during the holidays to see your availability in January for 2 workshops. The first one will be the strategic plan. We're thinking of doing it prior to the board meeting in January, but the more important one and the more pressing one is for policy and planning to review our policies. We want to do it in a workshop setting, so we'll be working with all of you for available time to be able to
And that's a
hold
good
workshop.
segue into my comments. For these very 2 important issues, our policy and also our strategic plan. We have already established chairs. We are going to be getting another chair that's going to be added into the strategic plan, which is going to be our vice chair. And it's going to be held as workshops. So what I'm going to be asking from the current existing chair is that you do take the time to sit with our executive director and Mr. Ahamid and get a full grasp of what has occurred, what is being written. So when we sit at that workshop, you guys can lead the conversation in the different areas so we can move forward. We got to be mindful that the direction of the future is what can we do? How does it affect our system? Can we afford it? And there's no pie in the sky. And there's no pie in the sky. Very good. Now, on the next item that we're also going to do, is the policy. Very important. We're going to be revisiting all the policy, and also we're going to be doing it a little bit different. Instead of the committee meetings, we've discussed it, that we want it as a workshop, and we're going to split it up in categories. Very important. We do listen to the public. We know our parameters, and we want to be fair and just. So I urge everybody to please attend these workshops. They're really important because as we move forward to the future, we need to make sure that we have policies in place that do not hamper MDX, but it works to address progress and growth. And with that, I'm going to say the following. Kudos to two very important issues that we've now adopted that are moving forward. One that's going to happen tonight, that is for the trucking industries. Those are hard workers. Kudos to us that we've rolled back the rate. We've gone in and we've said, we understand that your work is very important in our system and we don't want to hamper you. Also, kudos to all of us that we took the effort to move forward and institute the Advantage program that actually kicks in for our commuters, our passengers. And I urge the public to please register. Register. Come January, open enrollment for 90 days, as we said. You register because there is a discount program. So if you're belly aching that the rates are high, you're belly aching that the tolls went up, or really that we closed the system, now is the time to take advantage of a discount program which we didn't have before. And as we see this pilot program go into place, you don't know what the future holds and what else we might be able to do. And with that, I'm going to say, really, thank you very much, each and every one of you, for being here today, for giving back to your community, for giving the long hours and the long work. And something very, very important that I want to say, in the spirit of brotherhood and partnership, hey, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Same to you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all.
I have not asked for the motion to adjourn because the Vice Chair has asked me to speak.
Yes, Madam Chair, if it's all right, I think we should pass a resolution thanking, first of all, Mr. Richard Weiss for his wonderful service that he's volunteered and done such a wonderful job over the past several years, I guess, or a year. And I so move. Second.
And
No objection.
I know that everybody agrees with that. We need to say thank you very much for the very good advice and hard work that you did for us. But please, like I told you before, don't forget our address. We'd like to see your friendly face. I know, I know.
After you call the question, I have a second one.
Okay.
All in favor?
I'll take 2 seconds.
All in favor?
You
Oh, you're going to, okay. Yes, would you like to address us?
Is this on? I'd just like
Better
to tell you what a
microphones.
pleasure it has been to, I know there's some people that just sort of do this as a job. I love this stuff. So it's been your staff has been great. You are very, very lucky. I deal with a lot of staffs, and the staff that you have from Helen on down. You guys didn't get that, right? From Javier
Our
on down.
auditors agree.
Okay.
We all agree.
From nobody disagreed with me, right? Anyway, to Maria Luisa, to all of your staff, Marie, and of course Javier. So I've really enjoyed the time here. I was glad I was able to help, and I think you guys do a wonderful job. And you know, I think you chose a very good person to be your new general counsel. You know, we've told him that we were available to him anytime he wants, but we'll be not here when he doesn't want. And so everybody have a good holiday, but I did want to take the opportunity to say that.
Madam Chair.
All those in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Anyone's against? You'll be punished for life.
Madam Chair, I also would like to pass a resolution of gratitude for Secretary of Transportation Anath Prasad for his exceptional 4 years of service to the state of Florida.
Is there a motion?
I so move.
I'll second it.
Very good. Anyone would like to add anything to that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? All right. Congratulations to him and his new future. And with that, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Very good. All those in favor, here we go. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody.